I am Macy Weathers, a digital reporter at KAMR, and we are with Aaron Faber from Aaron College. We're going to talk about a few things leading up to the election, and with polls closing in about an hour-ish, maybe 2 hours. And the first question I really have for you is just, what have you noticed so far during early voting this period, leading up to Election Day, just overall nationally and state and locally, of just what has been going on? Has there been any weird things that has kind of changed the aspect the past 2 weeks?
I mean, not necessarily. It's hard to get much weirder than 2020 and 2016. So I kind of think that it's probably par for the course. Not anything that's just outright sticks out. But we have a contentious Senate battle going on. We have obviously a general presidential election, the possibility of the House, flipping to Democrats and the Senate flipping to Republicans. There's a lot on the ballot this year, so I don't know that anything specifically just sticks out other than the things that are going on in the world. They're normal.
Yeah. So we've been told all this kind of the weeks leading up that this presidential election is going to be really close. Why do you think that is that way, and why do you think it's so close compared to other presidential elections?
Well, that's a really good question. Yeah, I mean, it's anticipated that some people have anticipated that at least that it's going to come down to like 3 million votes or less, maybe 4 million. But it's kind of hard to tell that, right? I mean, especially right now, we're just now starting to have any numbers whatsoever from the polls. So it's possible that there is since 2020, we've had a couple of different things going on. 2016, obviously, we had a popular shift to the Republican stances on things with Donald Trump coming into the presidency. It's hard to know exactly why people do what they do, but obviously the big underlining issues is we have a lot of global events going on. People tend to favor strong leadership in global crises and national crisis. There's an immigration issue going on that's perceived as a national security issue. There is we have several one major conflict going on in the world and multiple flashpoints for future global conflict, and the potential for the United States and China and this trade war to be exacerbated and make it even worse. There's just a lot of things going on that are contributing to the perceived need, not just for nationalism, but also for a shared cultural, a shared cultural identity, that's held in the national framework. So that's also there. I think that there's a common need for that, which people find in their parties.
Yeah. And going to statewide with the Cruz and Allred race specifically, right. Unexpectedly, in my opinion, they got really close probably in this past week. What do you think could have fueled that? Do you think possibly the abortion issue going on in the state is fueling that, or could it be other factors to make it that close compared to against Beto?
Yeah, some of it's that voters get activated, right? I mean, particularly like a week before voting, not only do they go to the polls and start. For some people, this is the first. It's hard for people like me to imagine, but for some people, they go to the poll, they vote, and they find out the issues as they're voting, which is hard for me to wrap my mind around, but it does happen fairly regularly. So they're educating themselves as they're looking at the ballot. Sometimes, as you know, that means that they're reading up on things as well. And, also people are generally in the state of Texas in a gray area, right, on the issue of abortion. People are trying to figure out what the new norm is going to be, especially since the Dobbs-Jackson Supreme Court case came down a couple of years ago. And that goes from their feeling of representation on the Supreme Court, which is not a representative democratic institution, judicial, but it is perceived as a lack of. If people are looking at the Supreme Court and see it as an institution that's a democratic institution. Of course it is, but also a bulwark of like their popular representation, which it is not. It's a legal representation of the legal ideas of the country. If you perceive that, though, as being something that is a threat to democracy, then it's going to get you more fired up than it is if you perceive it as a legal issue, mainly because, they're less interesting.
Yeah. And going to kind of a turnout question locally, we've noticed there's been a significant increase compared to 2020 in Randall County. Do you think that could have been just with population-wise, or do you think it could have been effective because there's so many things on the ballot, including presidential and propositions, to bring people to the polls?
Right. Yeah, there is a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
While there's not anything that's just completely out of the ordinary, yeah, it seems like there's been a lot of good early voting. That's a good indicator of party preference and party participation, which is really good. And of course, we want as many people to vote as possible in elections so that we can have an idea as to what people believe about issues so that we can do the very best in representing their positions in government. And so, yeah, I mean, it's great that so many folks have gotten out to the polls. Not necessarily surprising given the amount of energy that's been in the campaigns in the last really 6 months, right? It's been a kind of a long haul, but again, not as crazy as 2020 was perceived as being. Some of that just had the offset of norms at the forefront, and maybe not necessarily any major crazy events going on aside from the pandemic, of course.
Well, those races are starting to wrap up. So, in
yeah,
the early
I guess
voting,
we'll see. Yeah.
all this stuff. So, yeah, thank you.
You bet.
And if you're still in line, please stay in line as the polls close because we have like 2 hours left. So, yeah. And if for any more coverage regarding elections, please visit myhighpoints.com.
South. Snow could be in the forecast as early as tomorrow night. More in a moment. Election Day is finally here, and people all across the High Plains and the country, for that matter, casting their ballots. Thanks for joining us tonight. We've got our crew from KMR Local 4 on the ground, bringing you the very latest on what is happening with this election. We're going to hear from Maya Clark first on what voter turnout is looking like today. She joins us live from the Randall County Annex. Maya, what are you seeing?
Andy, as of 1 p.m. this afternoon, Potter County Election Administrator Christy Bing said that they have had a 44.5% voter turnout, which is over 26,000 people casting their ballot in Potter County. And Randall County Election Administrator Shannon Lackey said they had a 53% voter turnout in the first 12 days of early voting, and today it's up to 60%. Today, throughout Randall County, they had 7,000 people vote, adding to their total to 60,478 voters in Randall County. Lackey says they've had steady traffic going on throughout the day.
From 4 to 7, then we will be extremely busy. I will advise everyone that's watching this that the Randall County Annex and the Southwest Library on 45th are by far my busiest locations. So you have 14 others to choose from in Randall County. You can choose any of those and not have the wait time that you would have if you go to one of these other locations.
Lackey says the only problem they've had is people trying to register to vote at the polling locations today, which is not allowed in Texas. Throughout Texas, polls will remain open until 7 p.m. And it's important to know that as long as you are in line by 7 p.m., election officials cannot turn you away. They must allow you to vote as long as you are in line by 7 p.m. and you must bring a valid photo ID. Live at the Randall County Annex, Maya Clark, KMR Local 4 News. Andy?
Maya, thank you. For polling locations throughout Texas, go to myhighplains.com. One of the things voters will be casting their ballots for today will be the City of Amarillo's ballot propositions. There's a few to tackle there. KMR Local 4's Jack Kessler has more on what each prop is and what you'll be voting for. He joins us now live from Comanche Trail Church of Christ with a recap of those props. Jack?
Well, Andy, there are 5 local propositions for Potter and Randall County voters to decide on, ranging from adopting an 18-page sanctuary city for the unborn ordinance to expanding the size and term lengths of the Amarillo City Council. Now, voters will decide on Proposition A, the sanctuary city for the unborn ordinance. Prop B through E, if passed, would make changes to the Amarillo City Charter and City Council. If passed, Prop B will expand the City Council to 6 City Council members and the mayor from the already structured 4 council members and the mayor. If passed, Prop C would make changes to the terms for the mayor and council members from 2-year terms to 4-year terms, and if passed, the terms will also be staggered for council members. Prop D proposes changing procedures regarding the recall election of an elected officer, and Prop E addresses vacancies on the City Council. And we will be live from both watch parties for Prop A tonight as results roll in, and we will have results from the other proposed propositions throughout the night. Now, live here at Comanche Trail Church of Christ, Jack Kessler, KMR Local 4 News. Andy, back to you.
Jack, thank you. City of Amarillo propositions are not the only thing on the ballot this general election cycle. There are several school districts across the Panhandle that have school tax propositions. KMR Local 4's Princess Bryant has been following tax rates in school districts in our area, including some negative school tax rates. She is now live at the United Citizens Forum to tell us more about those tax rates. Princess, good evening.
Hey, Andy. Well, like you mentioned, there are many school districts that have a tax rate on their ballot this election cycle. We'll begin here locally with Kenya ISD and Bushland ISD. Bushland Proposition A tax rate is asking to vote in favor of or against ratifying ad valorem tax rate of $1 and 0.06 cents. This is actually a decrease to the tax rate when compared to last year. Kenya ISD Proposition A tax rate is asking to vote in favor of or against a 3-cent increase to the district that will fund and go towards daily operations, salaries, student programs, and utilities. This election cycle, there are also some school districts that actually show a negative tax rate on the ballot. Follett ISD is one of the many districts showing a negative tax rate, with their prop asking to ratify the ad valorem tax rate of $1 and 0.01 cents for the current year. This rate will result in a negative 30.7% in maintenance and operations revenue compared to last year. The reason for the negative tax rate is because of the ballot language and not being able to use the word decrease on the ballot. Because of the confusion surrounding negative tax rates on many of the local districts across the Panhandle, a lot of the districts did have videos, meetings, and brochures to explain a little bit more on that to the citizens and the people that will be voting on it. Live at the United Citizens Forum, Princess Bryant, KMR Local 4 News. Andy?
Princess, thank you. There has been another election case filed in Amarillo Federal Court, this one involving the U.S. Department of Justice and election monitors. Friday, the DOJ announced it was sending election monitors to 86 jurisdictions in 27 states. That included Texas. That same day, the Texas Secretary of State sent a letter reminding the DOJ that Texas law states, quote, Justice Department monitors are not permitted inside a polling place where ballots are being cast. Yesterday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton asked Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk to issue a restraining order because of the law in Texas. Judge Kacsmaryk said he couldn't rule on that because of language related to a poll watcher, monitor, or observer. But Paxton and the DOJ came to an agreement that while the DOJ could still send monitors, they had to stay 100 feet away from polling locations and count locations in Texas, among other rules that they have to follow. Now, we do want to take a moment to bring you this non-election news story. The full autopsy report has been released for one of the Kansas women found dead in Texas County. The medical examiner says Jillian Kelly was found with 9 sharp force injuries to the head and neck. There were also wounds on her cheek, left temple, jaw, shoulder, and hands, as well as possible stun gun marks. Some of the wounds were defensive wounds. We are expecting Veronica Butler's full report soon. For more on this murder investigation, including the suspects in custody, head to our website tonight, myhighplains.com. We're going to be speaking with our Washington correspondents about this presidential race. We're going to check in on both sides. Up next, what the candidates are doing today and what we can expect later this evening. First, there's something that we're expecting in the weather department that's not exactly good news, John.
Andy, you're so right. Checking out our Clovis camera, we have a delirious blue sky, kind of the calm before the storm. Believe it or not, within the next 36 hours, there may be some snow on the ground for our friends in Clovis and across eastern New Mexico. Plus, we're checking out the chances for snow right here locally. More weather in a moment.
A new book asks, what's
Chief Meteorologist John Harris from your local weather leader.
And welcome back to the news at 5. I hope you've had a chance to get out and vote. The weather's been perfect for election coverage for today, for November the 5th. Last night, we actually had some snow across our northwest counties, the first snow of the season for our friends around Clayton, back over toward, say, Boise City, and further out toward the Rockies, a fresh snowpack. But this might be a precursor of things to come as we make our way into tomorrow and for sure into Thursday and Friday. In fact, we already have a winter storm watch being hoisted by the National Weather Service offices. This runs from tomorrow evening through Thursday afternoon, and you notice that possibly over 5 inches of snow will be possible from places like Dalhart, Texline, Boise City, and Felt back over toward Clayton and further west toward the Rocky Mountains. So here's a preliminary thought from our computer models as to how much snow might actually fall across our western counties by the time we reach into Thursday at noon. And again, take these numbers with a huge grain of salt, but just kind of an indication of what kind of weather we're looking at, possibly up to 9 inches of snow at Clayton. Only time will tell. About 9 inches of snow around Dalhart, 6 inches of snow at Tucumcari, maybe up to 2 inches of snow over in Clovis. Right here in the city of Amarillo, possibly a half of an inch of snow. Only time will tell. But again, the thoughts are and the process is in place from the physics of the atmosphere that we might see some snow moving into our western counties by tomorrow night into Thursday. There's the next upper level low right there, making its way toward the panhandles. In the meantime, we've had a beautiful day in between two storms, the one that gave us all of the rain over the weekend and also the rain-snow mix last night. And today, sunshine, but here comes our next storm moving in from the northwest. But all is quiet right now other than some high-level clouds drifting into the Clayton and Boise City area. So looking at our high-resolution model run, keep your eye on the timeline as we travel into 3 o'clock tomorrow morning. Maybe some light rain starting to develop around Clayton and Dalhart back over toward Guyman. Snow by the mountains. And then as we travel into about noon tomorrow, maybe some light snow developing around Clayton. Heavier amounts of snow along the I-25 corridor. And then as we make our way into 7 p.m. tomorrow evening, heavy snow out around Santa Rosa, back to the west of Tucumcari into the Kleins Corners area. And then as we continue on, the snow starts to make its way into the Texas Panhandle, possibly by 6 a.m. on Thursday. It might be snowing right here in the city of Amarillo. Rain to the east of us, moderate snow to the west of us across our western counties. And as we travel into noon on Thursday, we're right along that division line between rain and snow right here in the city of Amarillo, possibly heavy amounts of snow in our western counties and moderate to heavy rainfall across our eastern counties. So again, only time will tell. Currently outside, the winds are variable at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Wind speeds will stay light tonight, mainly out of the south. And then tomorrow we have a little frontal boundary moving through that will kick our winds around to the north at about 5 to 20 miles per hour. How warm has it been today? Well, for our friends in Childress, 64 degrees. Up at Dalhart, 61. Over Hereford, 63. At Portales, 62. 61 degrees in Canadian. And downtown Amarillo, we've had 64 degrees. Officially out the weather service, 58 degrees. So what? 6 degrees below the average. And the record temperature, make that 8 degrees. How about 84 coming in from 1916? A low this morning was 35. A little bit of frost on the pumpkin. Currently outside from our Roy McCoy downtown camera, we have sunshine holding on to 58. South winds at 8. Our humidity, 44%. Dew points at 36, and the pressure is falling. Here's our day planner forecast for your Wednesday. Overcast in the morning, chilly 36 degrees, a mixture of sunshine and clouds throughout the day, and temperatures will top out around 57 degrees at 2 p.m., easing back into the upper 40s and low 50s by 4 o'clock. So in the morning, we are waking up to the overcast. Lows will be around freezing at Clayton, 41 degrees at Childress. Frontal boundary moves through, mostly cloudy, breezy, and cool. 40s to the northwest of us, 60s to the southwest of us, and a high of 57 degrees right here in the city of Amarillo. And for our friends over in Childress in the southeast part of the Panhandle, will reach about 67 degrees. Thursday and Friday, rain and snow likely across the board, upper 30s and low 40s, some accumulating snow across our western counties. Friday morning, low of 33, a high of 40. On Saturday morning, we freeze at 32. We have the Veterans Day parade Saturday morning in downtown. Kind of a cool day, but not bad, 52. Back to the upper 60s on Sunday. Monday for Veterans Day itself, a nice day, 70 degrees. And for Tuesday, breezy and warm and 74. Of course, you go to myhighplains.com and keep it on that internet radar. Check out news, weather, and sports while you're there. Andy.
All right, John, thank you.
You bet.
Well, obviously a big day for our presidential candidates. Coming up, we'll check in with our Washington correspondents and hear what the candidates are doing today.
The weather on KAMR Local 4 is brought to you by Harvey's Precision Body Shop. Your car can be headquarters. KAMR Local 4 News continues.
Welcome back, everyone. It's election night, and we are closely watching the race for president and following the candidates. KAMR Local 4's Hannah Brandt joins us with the very latest from the Harris campaign. Good evening.
Hi, Andy. I'm here on the campus of Howard University where they're setting up for the Harris campaign watch party behind me. People just starting to filter in, but they're expecting about 2,000 of them to be here tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris will also be here herself. But first, she did stop by the Democratic Party headquarters to make some last-minute phone calls to voters.
Now that Election Day is finally here, Vice President Kamala Harris is urging people to get out and vote.
I think it's so important. We got so much work to do.
The Harris campaign has spent months pouring time and money into winning over voters, especially in the 7 battleground states expected to decide this election. Today, she took to the phones to do interviews with radio hosts in each of those states, including with the V103 morning show in Atlanta.
We have 2 very different visions of the future of our nation, and mine is focused on progress. Mine is focused on investing in the ambitions and the aspirations and the dreams of the American people.
And tonight, she'll be watching the results roll in just a couple miles away from the White House at her alma mater, Howard University.
It's full circle for me.
And in some of those interviews today, VP Harris shared that before she heads here to Howard, she plans to have dinner at home with her family, which she says is a tradition. Live in Washington, I'm Hannah Brandt.
All right, Hannah, I know you got a busy night. Good luck, and we'll be checking in with you later this evening. Thank you. We are on the campaign trail this election day, and that is where we find our Washington correspondent, Rashad Hudson. He is at the Trump election night watch party in West Palm Beach, Florida. Rashad, what's the latest?
Andy, supporters of former President Trump are starting to trickle into the West Palm Beach Convention Center. This room behind me, it's empty now, but it's going to be packed out later. And I can tell you, those supporters that are coming in, the early birds, they're being given Trump-branded merch, the hats and the T-shirts with the Trump campaign signature logo on them. Former President Donald Trump and his running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, each cast their ballots in their home states, Trump in Florida and Vance in Ohio.
I feel very confident. I have felt, we went in with a very big lead today.
One of the great traditions, of course, in American democracy. I, of course, voted for Donald Trump and myself.
Trump says he believes his messaging on the economy and the southern border will help him win over voters. He spent time criticizing the voting process in some states.
And frankly, if they'd used paper ballots, it would be over by 10 o'clock.
This afternoon, Trump stopped by his campaign headquarters to thank volunteers.
There's never been a movement like this, and we're going to turn our country around.
And Andy, like millions of Americans, former President Trump will be at home watching the results come in before making his way over here to the West Palm Beach Convention Center to address supporters. Andy?
All right, Rashad, thank you for your work tonight. More coverage waiting for you over on our website, myhighplains.com. We'll continue our election coverage right after a quick break. We're going to be talking with a social science professor from Amarillo College. Hear what he has to say about some of the top races.
Election night. News Nation is offering something completely different from all the rest. Respect for all Americans. Factual, fair, independent election coverage you can trust. Tonight, 6/5 Central on News Nation.
Welcome back, everyone. We are joined now by Aaron Favor. He is assistant professor of social sciences at Amarillo College. We always love to bring him in on election day. Okay, so Aaron, first question. We've heard this a lot. This is a historic election. There's never been anything, you know, all of the words. This is as big as it gets. What makes this so unique?
Well, as we were talking, I think that in March when I was here during the primaries,
right.
one of the central, I guess, concerns that we discussed was the potential for political violence. Of course, right. We've had a couple of assassination attempts on the former President Trump, and we also had President Biden kind of back out there right before the Democratic National Convention.
Right.
Those were both of those events. I mean, absolutely correct. Those are totally odd events.
Yeah, it was stranger than fiction because at one point that in my short time of being on this earth and being a part of the elections and getting to vote, I had never seen anything quite like that over what I think I've aged myself so much because it's only seemed like a few months when we were talking about it and all those things happened. So here we are. I know I want to focus really in on the battleground states. What does Trump, let's start with Trump. What does Trump got to do to get to 270 with those battleground states?
He needs to kind of flip a couple of the ones that he lost in the last election. Arizona, Pennsylvania. I mean, whether or not that's going to happen, I mean, it's for grabs. I mean, depending on which poll you're looking at, I mean, they're going in each direction. I think that 538 had some of those, you know, I think, what is it, 48 or 49? Yeah. Out of 100 of the simulations they ran?
I looked at Nate Silver. Yeah, out of the 80,000 simulations, Kamala Harris had the edge. She had 40,012. That was her number. So I mean, it is razor thin. And I've looked at it for Kamala Harris to win. I mean, it comes down to Pennsylvania at that. That's the big prize, and we know that because that's where they spent at the final days. Right. They really pressed in.
Yeah, they sure did. And you know, frankly, they've spent the last 6 months campaigning in Pennsylvania. I think nobody's going to be happier than the Pennsylvanians to be done with things. Just the amount of the footprint, just not the political footprint, the economic footprint, the cultural footprint of a presidential election is just crazy.
You and I both love politics, but I will be glad when I don't receive another text asking for any money. That will be great. In Pennsylvania, we're probably not going to get their results because I think most people don't understand how other states count votes. They've got a unique situation on what they do over there. For example, like Georgia, they're going to have the mail-in vote. They're going to have those early votes ready to go for us pretty soon as soon as they call the election is over. Pennsylvania, not so much. We may not know tonight.
Right, and I mean, Pennsylvania was one of those states that had some allegations of interference in the last in the 2020 election, of course.
And there are plenty of lawyers there.
Right. Yeah, they've been litigating it already. You know, so I mean, it'd be interesting to find out what happens there. But yeah, I think they're going to be cautious moving forward. And when they announce, you know, start making those calls, they're gonna make sure that they do it responsibly.
Going into it tonight, I feel like this is about as tight as an election from the forecasters that we follow. That is about as close as it gets.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And you can see that with the number of crises going on, I think, around the country. That the feeling kind of, well, I mean, there's clearly a direction and urgency and compare and contrast going on. So it does kind of feel like a battle of political culture, though.
And the counting is underway. Polls are open here up until 7 o'clock. We're going to start getting those results from the East Coast in pretty soon, so we're going to be following that. Aaron, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Sure. I know it's a big deal to take time away from your family to come in. John Harris has one final look at your forecast after this. Keep it here. We're starting by breaking down the latest on voter turnout in Potter and Randall counties. Also, we have the latest on a lawsuit filed in federal court here in Amarillo as the Texas Attorney General and Department of Justice reach an agreement.
Also, we have a nice election night underway. A little bit cool out there, but not bad. Now, tomorrow, we set the tables for more rain and snow that moves in by Thursday. More in a moment.
It's Election Day, and there is only 1 hour remaining until polling locations throughout Texas close. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We have reporters all across the Amarillo area bringing you the latest ahead of those polls closing. The latest on today's election, topping our story tonight at 6 from your local election headquarters. We do want to start our team coverage tonight on really focusing on the voter turnout in Potter and Randall counties. KMR Local 4's Maya Clark joins us live from the Randall County Annex. Maya, what can you tell us about the latest numbers?
Andy, as of 1 this afternoon, when we last spoke with Potter County Election Administrator Christy Bench, she said that they had about a 44.5% voter turnout, which is about 26,000 voters in Potter County. And Randall County Elections Administrator Shannon Lackey shared that they've had steady traffic throughout the day. And she says that as polling locations get closer to the time that they will close at 7, that's when they're expecting to be at their busiest. But she is pleased with the turnout so far today.
We had 53% of all of our voters voted in the first 12 days of early voting, which was really great. So now we're at about 60% of our voters have actually cast a ballot.
Lackey says that the only problem they've had so far today is that people have tried to register at the polling locations, which is not allowed in Texas. Throughout Texas, polls will close at 7 p.m., but as long as you are in line by 7 p.m., election officials must allow you to vote. To vote, you need to bring a valid photo ID. Live at the Randall County Annex, Maya Clark, KMR Local 4 News. Andy?
All right, Maya, thank you. For polling locations and more information on what you can and cannot bring to vote, head over to our website, myhighplains.com. Another election case filed in Amarillo Federal Court, this one involving the U.S. Department of Justice and election monitors. Friday, the DOJ announced it was sending election monitors to 86 jurisdictions in 27 states, including Texas. That same day, the Texas Secretary of State sent a letter reminding the DOJ that Texas law states Justice Department monitors are not permitted inside a polling place where ballots are being cast. Yesterday, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton asked Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk here in Amarillo to issue a restraining order because of the law in Texas. Judge Kacsmaryk said he couldn't rule on that because of language related to a poll watcher, monitor, or observer. Paxton and the DOJ came to an agreement that while the DOJ could still send monitors, they had to stay 100 feet away from polling locations and count locations in Texas, among other rules that they have to follow. Today's election coverage is far more than just those presidential candidates. Coming up, we're getting a recap of the major propositions Amarillo voters are seeing on their ballots. But first, here's John.
Andy, thank you very much. Live shot coming in from our Guyman camera looking back to the northwest. Clouds starting to roll in across the Oklahoma Panhandle, the beginning of our next storm system that arrives tomorrow. Rain and snow headed our way. News and weather continues in a moment.
Therapy for your mental health journey. Find your way forward at Northwest Texas Healthcare System Behavioral Health Center for Mental Wellness. Call 806-354-1835.
Texas Furniture bought thousands of dollars of factory.
News continues.
One of the things voters will be casting their ballots for the election day will be for the City of Amarillo ballot propositions. KMR Local 4's Jack Kessler has more on those props and what voters will be looking at. He joins us live from polling location over at Comanche Trail Church of Christ. Jack, what can you tell us?
Well, Andy, there are 5 local propositions for Potter and Randall County voters to decide on with less than an hour before polls close, ranging from adapting an 18-page sanctuary city for the unborn ordinance to expanding the size and term lengths of Amarillo City Council. Now, voters will decide on Proposition A, the sanctuary city for the unborn ordinance. Prop B through E, if passed, would make changes to the Amarillo City Charter and City Council. If passed, Prop B will expand the City Council to 6 City Council members and the mayor from the already structured 4 council members and the mayor. If passed, Prop C would make changes to terms for the mayor and council members from 2-year terms to 4-year terms, and if passed, the terms will also be staggered for council members. Prop D proposes changing procedures regarding the recall election of an elected officer, and Prop E addresses vacancies on the City Council. And we'll be live from both watch parties from Prop A tonight as results roll in, and we will have results from the other proposed propositions throughout the night. Live here at Comanche Trail Church of Christ, Jack Kessler, KMR Local 4 News. Andy, back to you.
Jack, thank you. The next question for these props is, when do they go into effect? The Amarillo City Council is expected to speak on that tomorrow. School tax rates, money used to pay for things like maintenance programs and more. There are a number of schools with tax rate changes on the ballot. We'll go through those and why some have a negative number, but something is coming when it comes to our weather. John?
Indeed it is, Andy. We have storm system number 3 that arrives tomorrow night. We'll be here on Thursday and Friday. We're talking cooler weather, along with rain and probably some snow. In fact, the snow may be accumulating across our western counties. More on that coming up in a moment.
Meteorologist John Harris from your local weather leader.
And welcome back to the news at 6. Well, today for Election Day, we've seen a lot of sunshine. Sunshine's kind of been a lost commodity for us this week as one system after another has moved through, but it's left us with really good rainfall. And now we're looking at the possibility of snowfall coming into play as we travel into tomorrow evening and for sure into Thursday and Friday. Check out that gorgeous sunset coming in from our Pampa camera occurring at 5:48 p.m. All right, let's take you back in time very quickly to the little bit of snow that we had yesterday across the northwest counties. You see the fresh snowpack on the ground. This is our visible satellite from earlier today. Snow on the ground from around Clayton all the way back over toward Raton and through southern Colorado. Also snow up in the San Rita Cristos. Well, this is kind of a precursor of things to come. Let me go forward here. First of all, we have a winter storm watch that starts tomorrow evening, runs all the way through Thursday afternoon for these counties shaded in blue. This does include Dalhart, Boise City, and Clayton. And look at this. The caption says over 5 inches of snow possible. Over 5 inches of snow possible. Could that happen? Well, let's look at an estimated snowfall total from what's known as our HRRR model. It's our resolution model that gives us a 3-kilometer grid, and it shows us that possibly up to 9 inches of snow could be seen in Clayton by 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. Only time will tell. Dalhart, possibly 9 inches of snow. Tucumcari, 6 inches of snow. Dumas, 5. Right here in the city of Amarillo, maybe a little bit less than a half of an inch. Only time will tell. But again, the physics are there that the atmosphere is going to get really cold, and we're going to see some heavy snow moving into our western counties. This is the storm system right here located over Arizona and Utah that's going to pinwheel this way, lift the atmosphere, and allow for our next chance for moisture. So let's go forward in time. Here is the HRRR once again, the high-resolution model run, and you'll notice that by 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, some light rain starting to break out from Dalhart and Clayton back over toward Guymon, snowing to the west of Clayton, and then by 1 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, possibly snowing around Clayton and back over into the Rocky Mountains, overcast around the city of Amarillo. And then as we continue forward, by 8 o'clock tomorrow evening, snowing out to the west of Tucumcari around Santa Rosa, where you see the darker colors. This represents heavier snow bands and still maybe a hit or miss shower across the panhandles. And then as we make our way into Wednesday night and Thursday, here we go. The low pressure center scoots over the top of us. The really cold air is over top, and we see a division between rain and snow right here from Guymon to Dumas to Amarillo and Point South. East of us will be where it rains. West of us, heavy snow possible around Dumas, Dalhart, and back over toward Clayton. And as we go into, say, noon on Thursday, that division continues right over the top of us. Amarillo will be on the cusp between heavy rain or heavy snow. So again, only time will tell. Let's see if this all comes true. All right, getting back to today's weather. Great weather for election coverage, great weather for voting. Right now, winds are out of the southeast at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. Wind speeds will stay relatively light tonight. And then as we make our way into tomorrow, the winds will flip around to the north at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. How warm has it been today? Childress 65. For our friends at Clayton 56. Tucumcari, we've kept it a little bit cooler than that. Over at Perryton 61. Right here in the city of Amarillo, looks like we've edged the temperature up to 59 degrees, so that's 7 degrees below the average of 66. Record temperature 84 coming in from 1916. From our Roy McCoy downtown camera, it's a beautiful election night. 55 degrees, southeast winds at 6, humidity 49%, dew points at 36, pressure is holding steady. Day planner forecast for your Wednesday: overcast in the morning, cold 36, overcast at 10 a.m. 49. At noon, we're back into the 50s. We edge out a high of 57, and then temperatures drop back into the low 50s and upper 40s by 4 p.m. into 5 o'clock tomorrow evening. In other words, it's going to be getting cold tomorrow night. In the morning, we're waking up to the freezing mark at Dalhart, 35 in Amarillo, Childress 41, followed by our next frontal boundary moving through, followed by an overcast. The temperatures around 41 degrees at Clayton, 67 degrees at Childress here in the city again, and early afternoon high in the mid to upper 50s. 7-day forecast looks this way for the city of Amarillo. On Thursday, again, rain and snow likely across the area. Probability of rain and snow at this point in time up to 100%. It doesn't get any better than that, folks. Upper 30s and low 40s. There could be the accumulating snow across our western counties. On Friday, about an 80 to 90% chance for rain and snow, highs only in the 30s to about 40. We freeze on Saturday morning, 32. We have the Veterans Day parade Saturday morning. A little bit cool, but it will be dry. Sunny in the afternoon, 52 degrees. Nice weather on Sunday, 67. Monday for Veterans Day itself, sunny and 70. And for Tuesday, a week from today, we'll call it breezy and unseasonably warm and a high of 74. You can go to myhighplains.com and always keep it on the interactive radar. Always check out news, weather, and sports while you're there. Andy.
All right, John, thank you. Now, we have seen a large number of school tax rates being on the ballot this election cycle. Some of them here in Amarillo and across the Panhandle. KMR Local 4's Princess Bryan explains the school tax rates that are on the ballot and even some negative school tax rates that can be seen. She joins us from a polling place, which is the United Citizens Forum, with more on our Election Day team coverage. Princess, what can you tell us about the school tax rates and how they're looking on the ballot?
Well, Andy, here in Amarillo, we have Bushland ISD and Canyon ISD who have a school tax rate on the ballot. But across the High Plains, there are many districts that actually show a negative school tax rate on the ballot this election cycle. The reason behind that is because that they can't have a negative tax, they can't use the word decrease on the ballot, and that's why it's showing a negative tax rate. One of those is Follett ISD, is one of the many districts that show that negative tax rate, where they're asking to ratify the ad valorem tax rate of $1.016 for the current year. This rate will result in a negative 30.7% in maintenance and operations revenue compared to the last year. And like I said before, the reason before this negative tax rate that we are seeing in many of the districts this year is because they can't use the word decrease in their ballot language. McLean ISD also shows a negative school tax rate on their ballot, asking Gray County voters to vote for or against ratifying the ad valorem tax rate of .98 resulting in a negative 30.77% in maintenance and operations revenue compared to last year. Now let's head back to Bushland ISD, which has Proposition A tax rate, and asking to vote in favor of or against ratifying ad valorem tax rate of $1.06. This is actually a decrease to the tax when compared to last year. Canyon ISD Proposition A tax rate is asking to vote in favor of or against a 3-cent increase to the district that will go towards daily operations, salaries, student programs, and utilities. Because of the confusion surrounding the negative tax rate that has been seen on multiple ballots this election cycle, the districts have had meetings along with videos and brochures explaining to the voters what that negative tax rate means to their district. Live at the United Citizens Forum, Princess Bryan, KMR Local 4 News. Andy?
All right, Princess, we appreciate that. Thank you for the update. Let's talk, instead of high school tax rates, high school football. Big showdown at Happy State Bank Stadium.
Yes, the Goat Bowl is what they call it. Busy Friday. Now you have Amarillo High Tascosa and then Canyon Randall. Something is on the line for one of these two teams. Find out what it it is and hear from both of these coaches coming up next in sports.
The news on KAMR Local 4 is brought to you by Kelly Roofing. Call 806-463-7910 for a free estimate today.
Hi, I'm Andy Justice, and I'm inviting you on a holiday vacation tour. Join me as we explore
Your car can be happy again. Sports with Corin Davis.
High school volleyball started gold ball chasing this week, but two local football teams will be goat bowl chasing in the historic Goat Bowl rivalry between Canyon and Randall. Friday will be the Eagles' last chance to claim a spot in the 2-4A Division I playoffs after losing to West Plains Hereford, and then of course last week to Dumas, which put them at 1-3 in district play. On the other side of things, Randall is coming in with some fire under their belts after sweeping Pampa 37-0. Or I shouldn't say sweeping. I'm volleyball talking here. They beat them 37-0. What was the reason for such dominance? Well, I chatted with Coach Sherwood earlier today, and I talked with Coach Winfrey as well ahead of the big Goat Bowl game.
Randall's so dang good at what they do. Their offense, y'all have seen them. My goodness, it still could be one of the best offenses in our district and in the Panhandle. And so we figured out we could take 2 or 3 of their weapons away, and they've still got 2 or 3, just laying in wait. And so, we're going to have to play fantastic defensively. We're going to have to control, the line of scrimmage, control the ball on offense, and see if we can't just stay in the game as long as we can and give ourselves a shot at the end.
They're a good football team. Records, you can throw them out. It's going to be a good football game. I told the kids, let's approach it like a playoff game. Let's just do it that way and put everything we have out there. Even though we get to play next week, let's just focus on playing our absolute best football.
A big game. On to other big news. It is Election Day, but it's also trade deadline day in the NFL world, which ended at 3 p.m. Central Time. The Dallas Cowboys had some deals on the table, trading a 2024 fourth-round pick to the Carolina Panthers for wide receiver Jonathan Mingo and a 2025 seventh-round pick following their one-score loss to the Atlanta Falcons this past Sunday. Now, Andy, you had some strong opinions about
it's
this
a fourth-round pick. A fourth-round pick is pretty valuable. If the Cowboys had had that, they could have taken a Bucky Irving. There were some really good running backs this past year in the 4th round. That is like prime real estate. Everything I was checking in online, probably a 7th-round pick would have got it done. And they feel like they overpaid. But we'll see.
We will.
But it's not a this-year move. This is not. I mean, this is for next year.
And now they'll meet up against the tall task of the Philadelphia Eagles
without
this week.
Dak Prescott.
Without Dak Prescott. A lot is changing up this week, so we'll see.
All right, very good. John Harris back in. We'll look at your forecast. Keep it here.
Election night. News Nation is offering something completely different from all